Investigator Online TV. Like always, we say like, share, and subscribe. Gentlemen, you're welcome.
Thank you very much.
Yes, I believe for this show is being hosted by me, but sponsored by our one and only restaurant, that is Yaya Extra Residence. Sangi wachisasa era wotuka, it's the home of Luombo. Olwalero batuwadde ka juice kuwewezaako ku mamiro. Tulina juice, tulina sugar cane juice with ginger, tulina mulondo juice, tulina beetroot. So bojja wano osanga buli kimunga kya kabi. You will enjoy to the fullest. Thank you. In this edition, I am privileged to have Kantandikire Ndoza right.
Joel Kenneth Ndaula,
yes.
alias J.K. Ndaula.
Thank you. Is our legal brain on the panel. On my left is Mr.
Charles Mtabazi.
Okay.
I'm here on the sports version to give an insight on the sports version.
Yes. Mukulu Kenneth bwabera mu koti baba asanga banne bwe basoma mateeka, they call themselves the land friends.
Oh, what's the natuka? Natuka wow.
Me with Mukulu ono twetansola the informed colleagues. Yes. Once again, you're welcome. Olwaliro tugenda ku discussing issues ndowooza nga bbiri naye endala zijja kujja with the time. Esooka tugenda kukwata ku ensonga eganya okuva mu deal eya HAM, DTB, Uganda and Kenya. Rolling, Supreme Court, High Court, so we are back and forth to the courts. Tujja kujja discussing extensively nga Mukulu Kenneth Ndaula atuwa the legal analysis on the same. Then from there we shall go direct to the playing field, that is on the football pitch. We shall be talking football. Uganda, Kenya, Tanzania are bidding to host the 2027 Africa Cup of Nations. Yes. Mukulu Ndaula. HAM Chugundu ne banne. HAM Chugundu is himself a lawyer. Kusinzira kuye, just a few weeks back twalabanga Supreme Court erina ensalawo gyewadde nga ye HAM himself a lawyer with his team of lawyers agamba nti tebagikola mutuufu bwayo nti contested it. A team of 7 judges, they sat naye waliwo kyayita Pajari. Yes. Ndowooza tutandikira awo.
Ekigambo ekyo tubagamba nti his lordship yakomitinze Pajari. Naye Pajari is olimbye ng'oli under oath.
Okay.
Walayidde naye noyogera ekintu ekitali kyamazima. So that is Pajari. Ebiseera ebisinga kiba kyapplyinga ku bajulizi. Witnesses. Yes. Nti oyitiddwa mu court okuwa testimony naye by'oyogera nga si bituufu. So that is Pajari. N'olwekyo kikozesa ku mulamuzi is a bit tricky because maybe oyinza okugamba nti there is that oath that is taken, an oath of office, ng'oyingira office. Oyinza claiming that maybe that oath binds them to be truthful in the execution of justice. Naye that is thinking outside the box. Naye ekintu ky'okugamba nti it's Pajari, it is manyi banoonya engeri gye bayinza not really okuddira ensonga eyabadde mu Supreme Court ogichallenginga because kooti ensukkulumu bw'eba esazeewo oba tolina kooti ndala gy'okola kijoddamu and lawyer aba alina okulwanira client we until if it's the bitter end, until the bitter end. So kati most lawyers bwotuuka mu court ensukulu bakuwadde judgment ogamba why. kintu kiremye ekintu kigaanye.
You can only go to court of appeal.
No.
Naye bwe kiba kisaliddwawo Supreme Court ndowooza ate
tewali gye kidda. Naye kati badidde ne bakireeta mu ango ya constitutional petition. Nga kyebagezaako kugamba juzi bwe nali wano, I think eyasookera eddala episode gye twalimu, nayogerako ku kintu kya constitutional court, ensonga eba ekutwala mu kooti eyo. It is if oba wabaawo ekintu kyonna ekikoleddwa oba ekintu kyonna ekikoleddwa generally nga tekiri oba nga kiri mu bumanyi bwa ssemateeka, oba osobola okugenda mu constitutional court naye nga kyoba ogisaba ebeera bagiyita interpretation. Oba ogamba nti ekooti eno etuvuunulire constitution, etubuulire oba ekintu kino ekyakoleddwa kiri mu butuufu oba kiri mu in line with that constitution. So kati ekintu kye bakoze is engeri gye kiri nti tetusobola kukola ku appealinga Supreme Court decision tugende mu constitutional court on the basis that engeri kooti ensukkulumu gye yasazeemu omusango ogwo, engeri gye yagukuttemu teyabadde nnambulukufu, mwabaddemu akabulamu era mwabaddemu kyebiyinza okuyita obumenyi bw'amateeka. So ne babuildinga the basis of their petition ku kintu kye bayise perjury. Again tugenda kubanga whenever omulamuzi ng'agenda kuwa ensalawo ye agisaako omukono era n'okubanga esibwako omukono gwe era neesomwa. Naye in this situation omulamuzi eyasoma judgment eyo yali Lordship to Haise, I think passing night to Haise. Yasoma judgment eyo, and then of course ekintu ekyo tekirimu n'obuzibu bwonna kuba ne registrar basobola okusoma judgment. The point is omulamuzi ye yagikoze.
Kakati katonaawo ssebo mukulu Kenneth, judgment eno kusinziira ku batunulizi b'ensonga ab'enjawulo bagamba nti they reached a consensus over judgment ku naku z'omwezi nga nsubira mukaaga June. That was when it was written. And it was supposed to be signed against on the same day with all the other judges nga bamaze okukola ki okusaako emikono. Naye nti just one judge, and that is Weekitiibwa Dolowe, yasaako omukono on that day. Bana abalala bajja on the 13th, that is almost a week later. Nabo consenting anti this is the ruling gye tugenda okukola ki okuwayo. In a way
bw'oba otunuuliddemu bw'oba osomye mu judgments ezo, abalamuzi abo balina engeri gye bakyogera ekyokuba nti batera okugamba nti I've had the benefit of reading through the judgment of my brother my brother so and so, and I concur, which means that omulamuzi tasobola conquering na judgment gy'atasomye. So owekitiibwa omulamuzi bw'abanga yagiwandiika, it means that bali baba bafuna copies ne bagiyitamu ne bakkaanya na buli kimu kyaba yayogera. So oyinza okugamba nti ekintu ky'okuba nti they signed at a later date, kyoyinza okugamba nti it's a technicality. And the issue of technicalities, there are things that courts have a discretion to do.
That technicality, does it have a legal implication? Is it valid legally?
Yes, because
can
there is
people argue it?
A legal sense to it, a common sense to it, and then a constitutional sense to it.
Waliwo akawaida akalaga akogera ku technicalities. When you're going to do justice, right? There are things that may stand in the way of you adhering to every procedure matter.
Do they count it as human error?
It can, no, it's not necessarily human error, but it will be looked at as, they may not see it as error. Kuba error, chiba kitegeeza nti wakikoze mu butamanya. Naye osobola okikola ng'omanyi, but there could be reasons for the court to overlook your failure to adhere to a procedural matter. Ne bagaya bakozesa kawairo 126 2E, 126 2E. Bakakozesa nnyako. Kubanga kagamba nti ensure that substantive justice is, ndimu paraphrasing, is done without undue regard to technicalities. So, kuba omusango guno gwatandika mu court nga ntandika law school, I have finished it naye gukyali mu court. So, ojja kulaba nti abalamuzi bajja kubeera very hesitant okugamba nti because we've not all signed on that date, nti we should therefore nullify the judgment. Kati ekintu kya perjury we bakireetera is that omulamuzi ya claiming that all the other justices were in agreement. But these people don't, they're saying that tewali kintu actually bukakafu butulaga nti they were in agreement. Because in many times they will rate, that judgment will also have their agreement.
It will reflect on their report.
Yes. To reflect, ojja kulaba nti owekitiibwa amazeeyo eyiye, below him the other justices begin to indicate that they have concurred. So kyebalinga bagamba nti kino kyabadde mu kukola ki mu bigambo okugamba nti they all agreed, naye nga amazima gali nti there isn't much to point us to the fact that they need agreed. I think era bayinza arguing also the fact that yasomeddwa omulamuzi omu, which is not the problem in itself, but they could use that to say that we didn't even have the presence of other justices to confirm that they indeed agreed with the judgment of the Chief Justice. Naye ensonga ezigenda okubawanguza mu Constitutional Court notuyinza okutunuulira nti mateeka, they can go to that court, naye practically can they go through? They have many reasons ezabatutte mu court. Baine gundi mu petition yaabwe. So first and foremost bagamba nti court ensukkulumu bwe yakkiriza DTB okwongeramu okuleeta ensonga ya syndicated loans, and that matter had not appeared in the harm appeal over DTB's cross appeal. So bw'oba okoze appeal oyinza okugaya nti omusango omanyi bagusaze, tokkiriziganya na nsala yaagwo, then nosalawo oku appealinga. The other party can also do a cross appeal. N'agamba nti yes, this person is appealing, this is our defense, but we also have a contention against that judgment, so the cross appeal. Kati kyebagamba nti Supreme Court yagenda newuliriza a matter that was not in either the appeal or the cross appeal. Teina actually yasooka kulabikira mu Supreme Court. And a court bwe ziba ziwuliriza appeal kubeerako emitendera oba kubaako the first appellate court ne second appellate court. So kati omusango bwe guba gwava mu high court, mu court of appeal eba first appellate court. It has a duty erina okuwuliriza okutunuulira evidence eyali mu musango ogwo neraba oba omulamuzi eyaguwulira basing on that evidence yatuuka ku conclusion entuufu. They don't go into admitting witnesses, they just look at that. Era bwebaba batunuulira witnesses, what witnesses said, okumanya whether this witness is believable or not, barelayinga nnyo ku nsalawo y'omulamuzi eyabalabako bagamba nti ffe tetubalabye naye ono yabalaba. So bwagamba nti ono ali a bit unbelievable, they take that authority. Kati bw'ova mu first appellate court, nodda mu second appellate court, that is the Supreme Court. Yo kyebeetunuulira is mubaamu principles first appellate court zeegoberera ng'ekola omulimu gwayo. So the second appellate court etunuulira the way the first appellate court did its job. Did they follow the right principles, and following those principles, was their conclusion correct? If those principles were misapplied, they will correct that error and come to a different conclusion. n'olw'ensonga eyo appellate courts tezi admitting a new evidence. It is not proper for an appellate court okuddira ensonga etabadde mu first hearing, first appeal, ate yo negiwuliriza nga it wasn't argued anywhere below, and it is not even arising from anything within the matter that is presented to it.
So kyoyagala okugamba because waliwo n'ensonga nti bano ba lawyers ba HAM bali baleeta obujulizi obulala ogamba nti DTB, Central Bank ye Kenya ebagambye nti ekituufu kiri nti bamanyi DTB Kenya naye tebawangako olukusa kujja cooperating business ya Uganda obujulizi wano ne babukuba so kooti yali ntuufu.
So kati ekintu when you look at admission of evidence okuleeta obujulizi mu kooti zineza appeal or then they do not usually bring in extra evidence. Naye singa obujulizi bw'oba oleeta buba bwekuusa ku kintu already ekiri before that court because tebajja bugaana nga ate it could lead them to a better, more to a just conclusion. Tebagenda bajja bukkiriza kuba bubasobozesa okukola conclusion entuufu, but it must be related to the matter before them. So the matter before them was there was an issue of illegality. Tibana abasajja tebabadde na permission kukola kye baakola. So to bring in evidence from Central Bank Kenya to help and build on that contention or claim, that is permissible. Naye kati ate okuleeta argument ya oba evidence ya syndicated loans, that would be a whole other line of argument that was not raised.
Ken, these things of banks are very complicated. Yes, I know them. Especially when they bring in syndicated loans, because that is actually fraud. Syndicated loans are fraud. But I understand the bank in question from Kenya is a bank that is regulated by the Kenyan National Bank. Understand?
Central Bank, yeah.
And it's also a bank by the government, by the way. I think it's owned by the Kenyan government, largely.
DTB?
DTB. Is it owned by the Kenyan government? If I'm not mistaken, it must be owned by the Kenyan government.
We shall check our facts right.
Yeah, facts right. Me, I'm just pitching in. I'm bringing a point, but I'm not well conversant about that. I'm sure there is an understanding between Bank of Uganda and the Bank of Kenya over this issue. And probably they have discussed it even outside court extensively. Outside the legal boundaries, there must have been a heavy discussion before even this thing pertains to court. You understand? So if harm has already been failed, let's say that as his claim is being failed, I see harm not going anywhere with this case if it's like that. Because if these two entities, Kenya and Uganda, have sat down and said, okay, harm is wrong, I don't think harm's relationship with the bank is going to antagonize the two banks, the two larger banks.
Okay.
Because the more it drags on, it's going to bring a conflict of interest between the countries' two solid banks. That is the Bank of Uganda and the Bank of Kenya. I'm seeing it being like that if it could drags on. Because it's like you're accusing the other country of wanting to...
We shall... the two banks will be invited into this case.
So I think Kantankeneka correction the syndicated loan, kat syndicates, I think ochitegedde mu term eri.
It's like money laundering anyway.
That is what, but syndicated loans are actually legal. There is a different meaning for a syndicated loan in banking. It is acceptable. Okuchirabanga money laundering, but it is not. It is not money laundering. Syndicated loan wejiramu is nzize in your bank and I want a certain loan. It is a very, very heavy loan. It inkusabye tugambye akawumbi ka $. Bank ye yinza obutayagala taking that risk. So I agree with your bank. Naye bank yo nengamba nti ngenda kwatagana ne bank endala tukunganye sente ezo tuzikuwe. So those banks form the syndicate. So mumateka under banking, that is the syndicated loan. But of course, echa bank zino nti Central Bank Kenya okujja ne nti obe ina engeri gye yakwataganamu ne Bank of Uganda outside the law. Era kiba tekikirizibwa. However big the institution is, buli kintu kyonna falling under the operation of the law.
That's what I wanted to know.
Yeah, buli kintu kyonna. So Bank of Uganda erina etteeka erigivuga, but then generally buli bank operating within Uganda erina nalyo etteeka, that is the Financial Institutions Act. Etteeka eryo libagamba kye bakkirizibwa okukola ne kye batakkirizibwa kukola. So the decision that was made by His Lordship Adonyo eyasooka okuwulira mu High Court yabeesinga ku Financial Institutions Act. Naye era nga weeyogedde, there are things that happen behind the doors, behind the curtains. So that omulamuzi yenna, they will have those things in mind and find a way of making a conclusion that aligned with certain things happening behind the closed doors. And ekintu wano kye bagamba batuufu that a court ought not to bring in ebintu ebitabadde mu musango. Oli mu kuwulira apiira ate gw'obikkirizaamu ekintu kya syndicated loan. It was not made as an argument anywhere. It is something that appeared that was... So they are contesting against that. It shouldn't have been permitted. Naye not only that, okugamba nti syndicated loans, kuba bw'otunuulira structure ya loan ya HAM, it doesn't fit with what we commonly call syndicated loans. Kubanga bwegambye syndicated loans zijja mu bank yo gwe n'okwatagana ne bank endala. This was not the case. In this case, DTB Kenya issued the loan facility and just appointed DTB Uganda to be the agent. Mu gundi eri yasooka nagamba nti the Supreme Court extended the definition of a syndicated loan. Olw'ensonga nti ffe nga bannamateeka ne bwe tuba tetukkiriziganya na nsalawo eyo, until it is overruled, we take that definition to be correct in the law. Kyobola nagamba extended, naye nga in actual sense they applied it where it is not really applicable. But to say that such a loan as HAMS is a valid loan, either this is another contention these people have in their petition, is to override the national laws. Nti ogambye we have a Financial Institutions Act etugamba nti bank yonna okukola mu Uganda erina okuba licensed, even if it's a foreign bank. Kati atodidde a loan structure or set up omuli bank etali licensed nejja nekola financial business in Uganda, and then you say that is legal. So you're opening a door, but it's a floodgates. You're going to get a lot of operations that are illegal. Banks zigenda very nga zideta muno sente, and the Bank of Uganda may have a challenge tracking such transactions kuba teina license je wadde bantu bano, and eyinza obutaba na busobozi bubasaba their documents relating to such transactions as it would a national bank. So they are bringing up arguments that are relevant, and then of course ngawe naganti in most cases constitutional petitions zitera nnyo okwekuusa ku bintu ebirimu a certain right. Kati wano bagamba right to a fair hearing. Bw'oba otutta omusango mu kooti oba olina okuwulirwa, and balina okuwulira in under all circumstances. Bw'oba olina evidence gy'oleeta, abajulizi b'oleeta, you must be afforded the right to defend yourself or support your argument as much as possible. So kati wano we bakireetera is they made certain applications. Waliwo akatambi akafuluma nga HAM yekyangidde mu kooti nga bayombye bakaayana
ng'ate eri munda mu kooti waliwo ensonga egenda mu maaso bo ne badda wabweru wa kooti.
So they had taken an application. They had an application to admit one eyo evidence ya Central Bank Kenya nga bagala gireeta. Then eyokubiri yali they were applying for a judgment on admission. So judgment on admission wetuba tugenze mu kooti ne tutwalayo omusango gwaffe nenkutwala mu kooti nenkuwaaba nina ebintu byenzija okclaiminga. Kati gwe mu kwedefendinga olina okubanga ogaa nti on this matter kiri bwekiti tekiringa bwakoze kuwagambye like that you go on to defend yourself against all claims. Naye ojja kusanga there are times when oyinza okugamba nti namuwola obukadde 10 yansasulako 5 wakyabulayo obulala 5, then maybe and other certain claims. Kati gwe muli n'ogamba nti yes yampola obukadde 10 era namuwaako 5 newasigalayo 5. kati that is an admission to the fact that nkyakubanja obukadde ataano. So I apply for a judgment on that admission. Then we can go and deal with other things. Maybe muyinza okubamu ebintu bya property, waliwo property yawambibwa, but we first deal with the admission. Kati mu defense ya DTB mwalimu what the lawyers of HAM say was an admission to the fact that the transaction was illegal. So we batuka ne ba applying one for the judgment to be stayed until that application is heard. For the judgment obutagisoma paka nga application bagimaze. Then omulamuzi era yali it was her lordship Pasi najja n'agamba nti no nze ngenda kubawa judgment then ensonga njaziba oluvannyuma. So one of the things they're saying is that okutugaana okuleeta okugaana okuwulira that judgment on admission n'okugaana admitting that evidence that was arising from a matter within before the court, it amounted to a violation of a right to a fair hearing. But then ebintu byengenda okuleeta ebinakusobozesa okukola ki
kuwangula omusango
okuwa judgment entuufu erimu justice erimu obwenkanya naye ate n'obigaana. So that would be a violation of that particular right. Eri mu Kawairo 28. And that right is non-derogable. Kyekiba kitegeeza nti there are no circumstances under which it is permissible obutagigoberera. Other rights are derogable. Bino ebyasimanya movement, police ejja kukwata and your freedom of movement is what? Curtailed, but it is for public policy. So it is a non-derogable right which the Supreme Court must have adhered to. So that is the other ground on which they go to the Constitutional Court. Gabagamba nti court ensukkulumi yasala omusango fine naye engeri gyagusalamu yali mbumenyibwa ssemateeka. N'olwekyo bagenda mu Constitutional Court, which is the Court of Appeal. Basale Constitutional Court ebabuulire oba engeri court ensukkulumi gyakolamu ebintu byayo ddala nga bw'oba otunuulidde obuwaayiro bwa ssemateeka yabikolamu in line with those provisions. Kyekibatwala mu Constitutional Court. Of course, there are other challenges to that. Even if they were to do this, never arguing legally, never go angula in Constitutional Court. Here is the problem. Constitutional Court is subordinate to the Supreme Court. And with the Constitutional Court, you can rest assured DTB will appeal to the Supreme Court. So who are you appealing to? A panel by the same judge that made that decision. So in sensible jurisdictions, a judge would recuse themselves. Wakati nkuleetedde omusango gwe yagusala kooti egusaze eri negamba nti wakikola mu bukyamu and in appealing and bringing it again before you.
Sisobola applying for conflict of interest against this one judge.
But you see the challenge is
yali musango guli nakusala bwati kati yatejje nkomyewo.
Kati the challenge is mu Uganda that judge is still the one that hears that application.
Chief Justice.
That judge gutulamu agambe nti I'm not biased.
Like we're legal experts, so people who analyze the law, and where do you see this ending?
Ndowooza nti
you forecast the case, where do you see it?
Ndowooza nti gujja kubeeramu obuzibu for harm. Gujja kubeera muzibu nnyo okuwangula for harm. Nawe tubagamba nti bawangudde Constitutional Court because of course omulamuzi Pasi to Haise yawa ensonga lwaki she did not stay the judgment. Ekisooka nti when she was sitting at that time
Catherine
it is night Pasi night at least yerinnya eri kugonda ku the judgment for the application yagambye nti ensonga lwaki teyastay lwaki she did not permit those applications. Ekisooka these people would have had the chance to apply for the submission of that evidence. They would have had a chance to apply for a judgment on admission prior to the time at which they did it. Naye olw'okuba nti balinda court ensukulumu nebaweereza ne judgment gundi notice nti ku lunaku bwe luti mujja kujja tubabuulira ensalawo yaffe, and then they applied after that. And of course she also says that when they got those notices, they received them without protest. Singa bagamba nti they're receiving them with protest maybe, but they received them without protest. Ekitegeeza nti baali bakkiriziganyiza nti omusango ensalawo gusalwe. And then so she looked at those circumstances, and then in addition, when she came to read the judgment, she could not stay the execution kuba yaliwo not even sitting. She says she wasn't sitting as a single justice. Because it would have been a panel eyinza okubeera clothed with that authority okugamba nti tusooke tuyimiriza this thing until we hear this application. But she says that when she came out to read the judgment, she did not have that authority. It is the equivalent of a registrar ze kusoma omusango ye ajja gusoma oba ina application ye baba bamwasayiniza kusoma. So she gave those reasons ezo zonna Constitutional Court ejja zitunulamu to see whether the Supreme Court really violated that right. Naye ne bwebanga esazewo in favor of harm nga wembagambye, you're going back to the Supreme Court. So practically teri mulamuzi ayagala their judgment to be overturned. They are not there.
It humiliates him.
It humiliates them.
Even bruises their ego.
Exactly.
How?
And we know that the Chief Justice is one of, he has a very proper ego. And we saw it again more petition, I think, Kyagulanyi, where Wabamugamba recuse himself. And he refused this because they were claiming conflict of interest. No, I don't see any. So I don't think this is going to be any different. They will go to the Supreme Court. They will present their things. Naye, you're essentially telling His Lordship Dolo to overturn his own. Well, it's not technically overturning the judgment, but the judgment, if he agrees with your appeal, the Supreme Court acted unconstitutionally. If he agrees with that, he's effectively overturning his own judgment. So it is not very practical. It means maybe he either retires or or for some reason if they can find a way of ensuring that they appear before a different panel. But this is very also unlikely. This is a very big matter, it was very public, so it will be most likely that they will get the most senior judges to hear that case, and of course seniority, Chief Justice is the most senior judicial office.
Tulabyeko amawulire agabadde gatambula on social media nga bagamba nti after that Supreme Court judgment ebizimbe bya nti DTB yaissuinze oba notice bagenda kutunda bakwita kutunda okuauctioninga ebizimbe bya HAM because essentially bo balowooza nti bawangula omusango eno
gundi mu Supreme Court.
Ekyo tekirina legal implication on it.
Kintu ekyo simanyi how it would operate. Kubanga first and foremost bwe bali mu High Court, they were not arguing about foreclosure of the properties. They were actually saying that DTB ebadde eri mu kwesasula. So I don't know how DTB would be foreclosing things nga ebadde yesasula loan. So I don't know because mu judgment they didn't pray for permission to go ahead and auction. So amawulire I think waliwo ne gundi generally nga they had branded it as fake news.
Yes.
It wouldn't be something that flows so well from the judgment. Arguments as them judgments zabadde endala. Maybe is arguing until while they were in court because it has been over 4 years. Obviously, HAM would have breached, the loan facility agreement. It would have breached. Maybe that would prompt them because of not depositing regularly to service that loan. So obango badeto servicing, they can foreclose. They can apply and go ahead and sell your properties.
The court charges.
The court, I think they would have paid those. posing ogamba costs.
Anti-court costs, sorry.
Costs.
Damages.
Those things that the court awards. But Echogant, they are closing. I don't think
it's true.
I think it's fake news.
It's fake news.
But of course the lawyers would prevent that. Well, they are going to file all kinds of applications, including injunctions.
Okay, so we want to shift from the courts of law to the playing field, the sports field. But before, layman, zatasoma mateeka byange byenasoma birala. Olina kintu kyewayagadde omugayizagayizaamu etteeka lyonna nesali liyinza okubeera bino ebyattaayo bitali bya UTB.
Waliwo omu ku balabi bammwe yagenda n'aŋŋamba baali batudde ne muzeeyi nga banyumyamu ne bagamba nti omenga bwennaafera yongere naye lwaki Museveni teyakoze kino lwaki teyakoze kino naye nti lwaki gwe totubuyire oba biki byasobola okukola so that bwe tubanga twegeyamu eri tusobola kubesinga on an informed point of view singa lwetwerimba but so yali yasaba nti we look at the authorities of a president bw'otunuulira gundi constitution yagenda owandiikibwa nga Museveni amaze omukulu omukulembeze w'eggwanga nga amaze mu ntebe emyaka gyali tegiweze 10 awo kuba yayingira 86 gundi ne bagisa 95 emyaka 9 during the passing of that constitution NRM NRA was very strong in its influence. In as much as ebiseera ebyo rigging elections byali tebinnatuuka level webiri kati naye era okugamba nti abantu abalondebwa okugenda mu constituent assembly bali completely unbiased nakyo it's a very big argument awo gyoba ogenda okuleeta kuba practically they would have been NRM aligned. Then bw'otunuulira obukiiko obwakolerebwa mu constituent assembly I think bwalinga butaano if I'm remembering correctly naye of the five I think 4 of them bwali bukuliddwa abantu abali pro they were Museveni pro NRM pro NRM so he had a very very big influence in what happened in the so bw'otunuulira constitution emuwa obuyinza bungi executive authority it is serving him it was actually smartly done kuba it's not the same nga bw'onaalaba ez'Amini oba ez'Obote yagenda n'awamba parliament n'abagamba mulina constitution empya mu region halls zammwe mugikebere mugiyise ng'amagye gali wabweru on the grounds of parliament. So of course that constitution was for his benefit and it was very direct naye omukulembeze aliko kati yali mugezi okusinga kaawo he made it very first of all he decentralized the process and then involving abantu so there was a lot of debate and discussion but he knew that when it gets to
parliament
the constituent assembly at least initially it was the national council to debate the constitution.
They were simply ignorant of.
No, they were not ignorant.
No.
They were all serving the interests of one person.
They were very, of course, what national council at the time yali ekolanga parliament yali erina okuwulira okudebating a constitution primarily naye ne bakisazaamu there were those queries nti abantu bano abali mu national council we cannot trust their independence so ne bakola constituent assembly naye era bw'otunuulira obululu obwo obuteeka abantu mu constituent assembly era you could still argue ngaera bwe mbagambye nti in that assembly yalinamu influence. So bw'otunuulira constitution eyo it is almost tailored to give the president authority but that authority is very much subject to parliament. Kyobola omuntu agamba nti parliament ya Uganda terina maanyi let me use the simple term babeera ignorant ekyo ekintu Museveni omukulembeze w'eggwanga omanyi tosobola mumalamu kitiibwa no but still a person waba ne authority ye agisigaza So His Excellency akitegeera bulungi amaanyi Parliament geina. It is only Parliament esobola okumujja mu ntebe. That is Kawairo 17. Kuba President tawulirwa tosobola muwaba mu mbuga z'amateeka. Tomutwala mu kooti ng'akyali sitting. Oba olina okulinda paka ng'avudde mu buyinza. He has been in power for almost 40 years now. So if he did something in 1996 okyalinda. Of course there are also limitations. Although ye asobola okutwala mu kooti naye gwe tosobola mutwala mu kooti.
So the word the president comes with the
certain privileges. And the exception is of course election petitions. Kuba tosobola kutwala muntu nti akalulu teyakawangudde bulungi ate ye notamwatachinga. He has to be heard. That is why you can see in election petitions okutwala mu court. But generally tomutwala mu court. Now when it comes to, when you look at the provisions on his authority, they are very broad. Ramuga, he's the head of the executive, the commander-in-chief of the armed forces, the fountain of honor. The fountain of honor.
a fountain of honor.
So, tosobola kumulinyirira, but still waliwo ebintu byatasobola kukola. Ekintu kyetusooka tuba tulina okusooka okutegeera is constitution ekola yonna. Tosobola kusoma kawairo kamu nonkajjamu noka-applyinga without the context of the entire constitution. So ssemateeka bw'aba ayina omulimu gweyakwasa a different entity, ate omukulembeze aba tasobola kukola gukola. Kyolaba certain legal scholars argue that bwe twali mu COVID nga omukulu atuula ku TV n'ayisa amateeka ge kyali mu bumenyi bw'amateeka, because even in a state of emergency era parliament eba erina okuyisa amateeka. There is no provision where the president legislates. And also, one of the things when I want to be arguing is eliminating a Financial Institutions Act.
During COVID, we had TV to address the nation.
It was illegal.
It
was illegal. And most scholars would argue that semateka is clear. Parliament yakola amateeka. Omuntu yenna okukola amateeka. Parliament erina osooka etteeka erimusobozesa okukola amateeka. Oba kiraba? All authority to make laws draws from Parliament. So mbanja kubuuza tteeka ki Parliament lyeyayisa okukkiriza omukulembeze okutuula ku TV.
But can Parliament declare a state of emergency?
It can. It is the President or Parliament naye mba neetaaga okukakasa. But yes, it can.
I thought it was if the president declares a state of emergency, there are...
No, actually, president declares a state of emergency. It still has to be tabled before Parliament to approve that state of emergency. So, wagamba nti tuli mu state of emergency. Within, I not take out before he declares or not later than 14 days after he declares.
State of emergency.
No, of course, one
I don't know the legal implication of these things, but as a president, like a little law, you know, he has a way to meander around certain laws, especially when it comes to presidential acts and the military act and the act of war. You know, yeah, those acts that give him a bit of power that supersedes. Because even when their budgets, even Parliament cannot look into.
Is it secured?
Lenga president has series.
But you see
and the law has actually given him the powers to what?
See the laws. You said ebisinga bagenda ne bakola amateeka. Nayenga naga court za Uganda tezisobola kwemovinga to hear a matter. Someone has to go before it. Mulimu amateeka mangi agali out there and if you took them to the Constitutional Court, they would not survive. No one has interest in those particular ones. Or he can actually prevent, using other means, those petitions from being filed. Naye nokusindika amaje bweru. Still, Parliament has to create an act
Yeah,
that
not even an
permits him to do that, and it has to
Parliament
consent.
has that to consent.
So
Because the EPDF Act states that the EPDF is there to protect and serve Ugandans from external and internal.
Internal.
So if you're moving
That
the army
is
out
outside of the
outside the
boundary.
country,
as
yeah.
the boundaries, you need
You-
to inform the parliament to give
Parliament.
you consent.
So
So that the
Wafuluma.
these presidents usually have the leeway because of the army and all that. Now you are supposed to get consent from.
So you'll find that in as much as Bamwa that extensive authority, it has to be checked by Parliament. So what does he do? Parliament ina sits maker. Zili mbitano something.
Tuli banji, yeah,
So
500
of those NRMA inako make,
like 300 and something.
majority.
he has a majority and
So
then
there's
some.
basically everything has to go through in parliament.
So
But you
basically,
see what he did? He knew that Parliament has authority. He knows that era omuna Uganda alowooza nti Parliament terina buyinza aba tategeera kyayogerako kuba omukulembeze ye yakimanyi. So he ensured that Parliament agirina mu ttaano. And the other place that has authority is the court. I think now we can see that aginywezezza nayo judiciary. So he's a
Because he
very
appoints the
good at,
judges,
he's
really.
very good at politicking, that man.
No, that man, I think. Okay, I don't know. As we conclude, because we have to go into sports, but let me give this as a conclusion. I think our president is a man who studied 3 different things. He studied the military, then he studied the opponents, the ones who have been in power, their weaknesses, where they failed, how did they go off power easily? You understand? Some of them didn't know the military like Obote, so they left power because the military could overthrow them. Amin was good at the army, but politicking made him invade Tanzania, and the Tanzanians came and removed him. So for him, what did he do? He came, he knew the military, studied the opponent's weakness, and then studied politics. So the man is a very, very,
Yes,
he's a
Omanyo.
So he
very
guarded
good,
himself.
very well.
Yes,
He's a
Omanyo.
very good politician.
Yeah.
Museveni, I don't think there is even it's not like I like him or anything, but I think that there's no one more intelligent than him in this country. Not in playing,
In politicking, yeah.
in politicking. Beating,
Actually,
it's like chess. It's like he's playing a chess game. You know, he moves a king, then, you know,
Manya
he's
what
back,
happens,
yes, then
yes,
he
okay,
gets,
and-
then he can leave you to move, then hit you at the, when you're ready at the top,
So-
and bring you back down.
That
I
is it
think-
from the
Thank you,
courtroom.
Kenny.
That was so.
No, it's just that when you're looking at the authority of a president, Chobo Manya, it is, as long as it is to do with the executive, it's very, very broad.
That's it.
He even has the power to direct the IGP. So if you want someone arrested, he can direct the IGP too. Of course,
There's a
the arresting
order
officer
from above.
The arresting officer yeah abatafuna that command directly naye eyita mu mitendera egyo agamba senkulu wa poliisi then negenda ngekirira
Ngekirira, nenga it's
so
an
the order
executive
from,
order.
it is an executive order. He has that authority.
So that is it from the legal mind. We are shifting from the courtroom to the playing field, the sports field. I'm still with the 2 gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen. In sports, we have the woodball, what you get, the beach cranes. Lunaku lweggulo basimbudde ne bava ku ggwanga ne bagenda Malaysia. Era ndowooza baatuuse bulungi. The day before yesterday, the She Cranes, that's the netball team, now against for the World Cup. The World Cup of netball in South Africa. Era Sunday bazanya mu mpira gw'okwegezaamu ne Barbados ne babakuba. But isira tujja kulisa bannaffe abo tujja loza the ladies and gentlemen, yes. Naye sira tujja kulisa ku football. Uganda, Kenya, Tanzania are bidding to co-host the AFCON, Africa Cup of Nations 2027. Sawa ya lero tuva press briefing ne FUFA nga mukulu Moses Makwe agezaako okutulaga chances ki Uganda's, I mean the region, that's East Africa. Ensizi nesatu ezegatidde mu BDA, the chances ezirina okubeera nti zibeera successful to host that edition of the Africa Cup of Nations. Naye tuzze tukirabako mu nsi ndowooza Africa gundi we have had 65 rounds of the Africa Cup of Nations. Nga 18 countries zezaka hosting competition here. And in 2 cases, jetulabye countries co-hosting. That is in 2000, we saw Ghana and Nigeria co-host. Then in 2012, we saw Gabon and Equatorial Guinea co-host as well. But in the Uganda, Kenya, Tanzania edition, jetwagala hosting Africa East African. We are too many. 3 countries. Anyway, you got to tunatukayo. So okay, chintu kino chikube mutochi. Chiri, how likely is it this bit to go through?
So okay, tena mukutua. Mukukiriza bidi.
Yes. How likely?
Kubanga Uganda eno. Singa magugu are concentrating ku bintu ebirala nasoka nava ku hosting. Kubanga wolabo tunulira Uganda. Uganda, Kenya, Tanzania. Uganda mwezo countries yeringa jebatwala obutwazi. Teina kyesobola kulagayo nga.
So we are riding on the other countries.
Of course. We cannot stand as Uganda tugamba nti tugenda hosting African Cup of Nations with Kenya and Tanzania. No. It has to be Tanzania hosting with Uganda or Kenya hosting with Uganda. You understand? It's our Chafechinyini National Stadium. Ojira beli under renovation. You understand? Nemipiira gyennyini gye tulina wano ejaffe tugihostingira mu countries endala. Tetulina infrastructure esobola kuhostinga emipiira. Ntegedde. Kubanga 2027 is not far. 2027 is 2 years from now.
Yeah, sure.
Otegedde. Tuli mu 2023. Ojjako gino emyaka ebiri tuba tugenze mutu gino ebiri togibala kwa
2025
2025 oba togibala because these 2 years are for infrastructure kukola ki preparations so olaba nti emyaka ebiri gye tuba tuyinawo okubeera nga twetegesi kubanga omala ozimba advertisements security layouts actually security ebeera y'amaanyi. You understand? Biri bintu bingi mitendera mingi egyoyitamu ogenda bateekawo abantu okubasuza. You understand? Ekintu cha Uganda hosting African Cup of Nations. Chiri a long way to impress. Ensi wano jendaba esobola hosting African Cup of Nations. Nga yegasi in Tanzania and Kenya. Solidly they can. Because first of all they invest a lot of money in sports. Wano ekintu ekisinzo tulema. Kala kuwana ko kajuisi natumiza akalala
yona service
natumiza akalala
ya extra residence
ka mulondo akalimu sugar cane akalimu ne jinga kayamba kugula misayi ati tebakaseera so ababajja wano kuya extra kana akantu nerega bakajumbira kamulondo
kaluwa ka sugar cane
kaluwa ka jinga gamba kansanyusiza ne era kati wetu hostinga African Cup of Nations
bayitirewo wano
bayino kujja wano bakanyi
nejjukirira yaya erinake tukoledde genda kusuubirira genda tuwanga juice empombo wano tulinawo kye tugenda okuyita ki yaya
sports center
yaya sports center
nga tuanalyzing emipiira tuanalyzing tugenda bena na guests bangi so wanga wano yaya yo etwa engeri gyokwe we express ourselves in Zoom.
So mpira jija kuba live, jija kuba ni delayed, recorded, our insights into so much of sports.
Predictions tugenda bawa abaka papula bafune pen no papula.
Yeah, sure.
Hakuna
basomeremu.
Mipira etano super.
Tubawe sure wins.
Ekintu kyo hosting ekyo bobochu I think botunulira kati nga 2021 twafuna obululu bwaffe. 20 chibasheza tudamo kulonda 2026.
26 yes.
So osuubira nti kiba kyetaagisa okutunulamu even that political environment before you start considering
Tingamenti security. Kubanga already tuba mu budget eyakalulu. A very poor selection.
Council and so much. As we run up to the
2026 tuba tuvudde mu budget eri porous. Enzitirivu nnyo eyakalulu.
So political environment, the safety of the players,
we do not know. You know,
unless committing in it kakasanti.
Waliwo ensi eziri very developed nga zi Morocco ezitasobola kwagala abazanyi bawe ku jail. There are people who play in very very big clubs nga their assets insured players, players abalive abatambula ne bicycles. How do you bring them to this country? They tell them no, you can't go to that country. And that's why you see people who are supposed to come to our nation katinga Muhammad Salah ninga clubs abaziba advising do not go.
And their teams, their nations would not want to miss out on this particular edition of the Africa Cup. So likely pushing somewhere where there won't be elections in those years.
I don't think this me chomupire echo zinganze mbadde kintu kinuma ng'omuntu yasamba ku mupiira.
I know.
Ekintu kyokulaba nti omupiira tuli mu guteeka mu level gye tutalimu. Tuli kwewanika tusooke tubuildinge wansi. At this rate singa national stadiums by the way buli kyalo kiriko ekisaawe tulina okumanya ne bwe twakulanga ekabale ffe tulina ekisaawe kirungi nga wokiteeka mu ssente kisobola ofuuka district stadium. This money that we are going requesting for and what, why don't they inject it in that? Omupiira gwa grassroots tuzewo under 14, under 12 zenasambira friends of football. Ebiseera nga tuli about 10, 11 years naye ng'olabira ddala skill we eri abaana ba grooming players. Right now tulina robots abaana abavudde mu liigi zaffe naye nga it's searching for talent. Why don't we groom? Countries are grooming. Teri nsi grooming abaana. You understand? Kye tulina okukola tusooke tumanye nti emyaka 10 gyonna tugifiisi. Oba tetugenda mu World Cup, it's okay. Oba tetugenda wa, it's okay. But where are we? Can we sustain ourselves for the next 20 years?
Talent.
Esobola okumala emyaka 3.
As we build infrastructure.
Exactly. Nga talent weje infrastructure. Talent weje tutuke ekiseera. Ngeno talent webe yeyongeddeyo. Neno wansi wavaayo endala. So that we are continuously developing our football.
Nga niwe kuba kwagala ku hosting World Cup tusobola okweyimiranga Uganda tugambe tulina nambo tulina nakikubo tulina kitende
exactly
atwetaka
atolesa kantu ka kitende manyi twakanyumyako lu nekugamba taka kantu ka kitende lumu tulukanyumyako online one akantu ka kitende ako omanyi politics wa falanda natuuka mu mipiira ontegedde oyo musajja w'ekitende
Mulindwa Lawrence
naibuuza lwaki tuhostinga omupiira e Kenya e Rwanda friendly nga wali mulunzi nga Mulindwa waali ayina ontegedde. So the thing is this ekintu kya Uganda kyoke tutuule Magogo ne banani abali mu sports ministry of sports abapya we sit down we see how to develop our national structure of sports. Of football. Tunuli abana ba netball is becoming one number one export. Bachimanyi netball edi mukulanda ate
n'abana UK
ate bagamba Museveni tateeka sente mu sports naye Museveni aba netball alaba bagenda mu maaso tebabulanga sente.
Yes I don't sikugambye ko nti football yagenze Malaysia just for beach
because they're serious.
Baba 900 million
baba running
baba organized
n'abantu bebweru sponsor baba because even sponsor ogenda no anti netball is growing. It's actually a sport that we now follow. No wera ku TV nga Uganda eri South Africa zanya ogenda no laba.
I know
because you're interested and they are organized. Everything, the coaching structures, the camps, the talent from down. Sigamanti babesinga ku muntu wa myaka 45 magenaza netball. No, abana je bali bajje babatendi kati bo opportunities. Fe wafe mu football mulimi a lot of question marks.
Kanso in your ngabwe tugalawo twagala kuva wano balabi tu abajje bakole program and editions and Council, olaba chances za Uganda over region Uganda, Kenya, Tanzania tulinayo light at the end of the tunnel hosting Africa Cup of Nations in 2017.
2017.
2027, sorry.
I think gundi omukulu oyo gundi analysis gyawadde badde ntuufu kuba bw'otunuulira the fact that mwina infrastructure etasobola kusupportinga bintu ebigundi mizannyo egya that caliber.
I know.
You cannot. I don't see basobola okubiddinga, but I don't see that you can compete.
Aha,
don't think you can
especially nga
compete.
tulina Botswana eri organized,
Not a little.
tulina Nigeria, tulina Algeria.
You cannot
They are all
compete.
in.
And this was a
Bonna
bidding
mu-
given alone.
Eh.
Katazini bidding you can. Because they know infrastructure. Petro Energy.
Mpozi nga bwe banajja mu East Africa era banazanyayo one game.
Ne team already eva mu CAF ne FIFA inspection team eri Kenya today, I think, and tomorrow. Then on 28th they will be in Uganda, and 29th thereafter they will go to Tanzania.
I think tuba tukyabula kuba olaba ebisawo byayogedde oba byewayogedde Nambole Nakivubo Kitende. Ebisawo ebyo ebimu babi I think a while back oba bali baba South Africa abagenda ekitende ne bakigira ne bakirambula. And on international standards, even continental standards, nga kiba kikyabulamu. Yet it is a stadium kyetwenyumirizaamu naye nga ate kibulamu.
Yes.
So now you're hosting countries. You're bringing nga wagambye there are players that are playing in Premier
African
League.
stars here.
Omuntu azanyidde mu bisaawe nga Trafford, azanyidde ku Emirates, azanyidde ku Etihad. Omuleeta Nakivubo. So I think realistically, in as much as musobola obiddinga,
Unless it's going to
realistically,
prove us very wrong.
yeah.
So tulindeko.
Tuline bayinza okuyitamu naye ne tuswala buswazi.
They're expecting money to come in and they build stadiums.
Olidde kanso kyagambye. Bid eyinza okuyitamu ne bagiwa region ne batuswaza.
Kwagala tuswaza.
Tuve wano maliriza.
Mutulinde mu next episode eya Thursday. Eya sports buli Thursday tugenda gitandika naye tujja kuba tubabulira time and updates tukyali. Tuli abantu abali very busy, but we're going to make time and make this one of the best sports centers.
For purposes of okulinda abantu bajesonge nokolayo some names. Ekyo tukireke.
Ekyo katukireke. Tuyina abo surprise bungi obugenda okubanyumira. Don't forget to subscribe here extra. To come and eat our food, to like. Tuli ku Facebook, tuli buli wamu. The investigator weeri nawo ogenda ku online ogisangako. Anytime you are available, pass by and have a very good meal and have very good juice that we have had.
So,
and tunyumye mufe tubeera one all the time.
Until then, it's been your courtroom sports playing field with the panel. I have been Daniel Znabong Tatia, the Prince of Journalism.